Today I'm going to talk about something I've never talked about, and you probably want to listen to the end. And it really has to do with the last month that Amanda spent with me, and we were together before she went to her seventh and final rehabilitation facility. If this is the first time seeing me, again, we were married for 25 years, and unfortunately, she passed away from alcohol use disorder a little over 5 years ago. And a big part of this page is really dissecting that experience with living with an alcoholic who ended up being terminal. Now, the last month, this would have been January of 2020, really just before COVID hit. And it was a very, very difficult time. I was really near the end of my rope, to say the least. My goal was to get our son through his childhood, and we had dropped him off the previous September to college. So he was out of the house, and he was living in the dorms at that time. He had come home from Christmas, and he really was not too happy with his mother because she was inebriated the entire time. And I think it was being away from college had been a big break for him. And he had no interest in reintroducing himself to that. So he only stayed for a few days. He stayed like Christmas Day, and the next day he flew out to see his girlfriend who was in Texas. So he didn't spend a whole lot of time with us, and I was kind of happy he got out of the house. And again, I have a complete coaching program that's really designed to help the alcoholic and the family, as it's a family disease. Set up a breakthrough call. Link is right in my bio. Go to the link tree. Takes about 45 minutes or so. I'm going to do a deep dive into what's going on with you and your family. The call is free. The course is definitely not, but I'm looking for people who want to change their life and the life of their family. So really what happened with myself and Amanda after Christmas was, I'd go to work. I had an insurance brokerage, and I was out in the field quite a bit. So I'd do appointments, I did group presentations, I had meetings I had to go to. I had a pretty busy life. So when I came home, unfortunately, it was kind of business as usual. And I was finding Amanda going kind of deeper and deeper and deeper into her disease. She would just be completely drunk on the couch every single day. And quite often she just sat there. She didn't really do anything but drink. I think she was calling, I've talked about this. She was calling DoorDash and getting cases of beer. We tried everything to get money away from her. And you really get to the point, I think, as a family member, albeit a spouse or whatever the situation or relationship is, where you quite honestly, you need to make yourself a priority. And you get to the point where you really don't care. You after someone has been into so many programs and outpatient programs and inpatient programs, and she's just seemingly getting worse and worse. At the point you really do have to take care of yourself and your own mental health. And this is really what this particular video is about. It's not about disparaging anyone. That goes without saying. It's a horrible disease, but it does affect the family. And my videos are from the family perspective to a large extent. So what was really happening, I was coming home from work, and I could feel this just depressing kind of energy in the house before I even got in the house. And I'd come around the corner from the garage after parking the car, and I'd see the back of her head, and she'd just be sitting there, and I could tell she was just inebriated. You could smell it. She was drinking Coors Light at that time. She was drinking about 25 to 30 beers a day. Just an outrageous amount. And she was doing that, it was kind of her concession for not drinking wine because it was a lower alcohol content. And really all she was doing was sitting there and watching television all day. Or she'd go up in the bedroom and watch television and continue to drink. There was beer all over the place. And it was really past the point of tolerance. And at this point I had actually talked to lawyers, and I was seeking really a legal separation. But there was one event that happened that really pushed it over the edge when I realized it was just time I needed to get her out of the house because she was dangerous to herself and then to anybody else. I came home one day, and there was at the bottom of our stairs, there was a big chunk. I had this huge cabinet, and there was a big chunk out of the bottom of it. And I asked her about it, and she didn't really know. And she had this big dent in her head, and just a big chunk out of her head, and she was bleeding and stuff. And I cleaned it up for her. She didn't even realize. And I think she had actually gotten a concussion. She had fallen down the stairs at our house. And I realized that it was really at the point where you couldn't even leave her for any amount of time. And I said, this is it. Okay, you need to go to a rehabilitation facility for your own safety, if for nothing else. Now, for any family member that's had to live with a late stage alcoholic, they know what I'm talking about. I mean, coming home every day and finding your wife really sitting in a pile of her own bodily fluids, completely unproductive, emotionally really gone. And I think she had the beginnings of Wernicke-Korsakoff. I think she was having alcoholic dementia. It's hard to tell because she was always inebriated. So sometimes you don't see enough sobriety to even tell if they have that problem because they're constantly inebriated. Very, very sad place to be. It really, really is. So, I set up a time for her to go to a rehab facility, and by then it was about January 28th. This was about a month after Christmas in 2020. And really, I tell this story because from my vantage point, I remember just feeling resignation, like there's nothing else we can do. We've done everything we can do, and she's getting worse and worse. I can't live with it anymore. Emotionally, it was just the horrible energy to have around, just depressing. It brings you down, and just constant feeling of disappointment. I mean, there is no relationship with a late stage alcoholic. It's all about, they're getting alcohol, consuming it, and recovering from it. I mean, there is no real relationship there. And for people who are in that situation, they know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just time to make a change. And so we set up her seventh rehab, and it was about 100 miles away. I dropped her off in Los Angeles. I believe it was the 28th of January in 2020. And at the time, she didn't speak. When I drove her down there, she didn't talk. She was really kind of in just this weird, depressed, non-communicative state, and I'd never seen her in that state before, and it was very, very strange. And that was the last time I ever saw her. I remember I dropped her off. We pulled into the driveway. It was a residential place, and we pulled up into the driveway, and I walked her in. And of course, they had to go through the luggage, so we left her luggage outside, and she walked through the front door, and I shook the hand of the lady that did her onboarding, and they just took it from there, and I walked out the door. And it was the last time I saw her. Really, the next time I saw her, she was in the ICU at UCLA Medical Center. But I can remember going back to the car and driving home, and really just the feeling of relief, just I have 30 days, and longer, and I'd had enough. 25 years, and I'd had enough. And really, the last thing I want to say, if you follow me, you know the story. The following day, she fell down the complete flight of stairs, two stories of stairs, at the rehab facility, and they put her in ended up putting her in the ICU at UCLA, where she was there for 28 days and succumbed to the disease. Unfortunately. And you can read about this really in her memoir, Amanda, A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism. Again, you can find the book in my link tree. There's also an international link. It's also available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and the Apple website. And again, thanks so much for listening.